Hello, this is a key to the standard conversion practice problems that I gave you in class today. Just as a note, there are 3 conversion factors that I told you that you had to memorize, so make sure you know them. Those are 2.54 centimeters equals 1 inch. Additionally, you have to know there are 1,609 meters in 1 mile. And then lastly, you need to know that there are 3.28 feet in 1 meter. We'll just be using these conversion factors a lot through the year, so those are 3 that I want you to have memorized, but for the purpose of doing this assignment, you need to know those 3 as well, so just keep that in mind. So I'll start here on problem number 1. The way this works is I use something called the factor label method, which just looks like a bunch of cross-hatched boxes. And so the first thing I start off is by making my first box, and then we always write what we're given in the problem up in this top left corner here. So 25 pounds is what we were given there. And we've got to try and get it to grams. So we have to think of a way that we can do this. We can't go directly from pounds to grams, but we can go from pounds to ounces, and then from ounces to grams. So that's what we're going to do. I would say that there are 16 ounces in 1 pound. And then this is good because pounds cancels out. All right. And then there is 28.3 grams in 1 ounce. Now, ounces will cancel out, and we're just left with grams in the end. So then I go through and I multiply across the top and I multiply across the bottom. Because there are only 1s in the bottom, what we get on the top is going to be our final answer. So that's just 11,320 grams. For problem number 2 here, we've got 15 meters. We need to get it to feet. This one's a pretty basic one. It's just 1 step, so 15 meters. All right, the conversion factors, meters to feet, we know there are 3.28 feet in 1 meter. All right, we go through, multiply that across, you get 49.2 feet. For problem number 3, we're going from miles to meters, so we start with what's given there, 3 miles. And again, this is another simple little 1-step conversion. We know that in 1 mile, there are 1,609 meters. We multiply across there, and we get 4,827 meters. For problem number 4 here, we're going from inches squared to centimeters squared. This one is a little bit different because inches is in there twice. Okay, so that means we're going to have to cancel it out twice. So we start with 25 inches squared, just like we would with any other one. Start with what we're given. All right, but now we need to cancel out inches twice. So what we'll do is we'll just use the same conversion factor twice. We know that there are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. All right, and so that cancels out inches once, and then we'll use the same one again, 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. And that cancels out inches the second time and leaves us with centimeters squared in the end. So if you go through and multiply those across, what you get is 161.29 centimeters squared. Problem number 5 has a little bit of an issue with it as well. So this one, it starts off 25 mph. So you have to first know that mph means miles per hour. But then the other weird thing here is whenever you have something that says per in it, a unit that says per in it, it means that we're going to have the first part in the top, miles, and then per hour means the hours go in the bottom. All right? And so in this one, we're trying to get to meters per second. That means we need to cancel out the miles so that they're eventually into meters, and we need to cancel out the hours so that they're eventually into seconds. And those are sort of two separate conversions happening simultaneously. So we'll have to take them on one at a time. So the first thing I'm going to do here is convert the miles into meters. And so same as we would before, we want miles to cancel out, so I put it on the bottom, meters on top. We know that in 1 mile there's 1,609 meters. All right, so then we've got miles canceled out, we're in meters. Okay, so now we're going to start working on hours. Now this is a little different from before because hours is in the bottom, which means if we wanted to cancel out, we need to put hours in the top. All right, and then something like minutes we can get into from hours. So we know in 1 hour there's 60 minutes. All right, and then similarly, we want to get rid of minutes now because right now we'd be in meters per minute and we need meters per second. So we know that in 1 minute there are 60 seconds. All right, and then usually what I do here, if there are numbers on the top and numbers on the bottom, I'll just multiply everything across the top. I get 40,225 over, and then I multiply everything on the bottom. I get 3,600. Okay, and then I put that into my calculator again, and I get 11.17 meters per second. All right, on to problem number 6. This one says 12 cups. It wants us to get it to quarts. So we start with 12 cups. We can't go directly from cups to quarts, but what we can do is go from cups to pints and pints to quarts. So we know that there are 2 cups in every 1 pint. And then cups cancels out. And we know that there are 2 pints in every 1 quart. Okay, so then pints cancels out. What we end up with here is 12 over 4, which ends up just being 3 quarts. For problem number 7, we have 948 milliliters. We're trying to get it to pints. This one also takes a couple steps. So we can go from milliliters to cups and from cups to pints. So that's the path that we'll sort of take here. 948 milliliters is where we start. If you look at the conversions up at the top, you know that 1 cup is equal to 237 milliliters. That cancels out the milliliters, and now we're in cups. We knew that 2 cups equals 1 pint. All right, and if we go through and multiply those across, I end up with 948 over 474. Put that in your calculator, and you end up getting 2 cups. 2 pints. Problem number 8 here is another one where we've got a square unit, so we're going to have to cancel that out twice. So we start with what's given, 10 miles squared. So then we use our conversion factor. We know there's 1609 meters in 1 mile. And then we have to do it again because it's squared, so 1609 meters in 1 mile. All right, so then we've canceled out our mile squared and we're in meters squared. If you multiply that out, you get a really big number. It's something around 25,900,000 meters squared. For problem number 9 here, we are going from ounces to grams. This is a nice little one-step conversion. So we start with 64 ounces. Then we're going to go, there are 28.3 grams in 1 ounce. And then it's just a simple multiplication there. And you get 1,811.2 grams. Problem number 10, it wants you to go from inches, 9 inches, to meters. So we start off here, we say 9 inches. We can't go directly to meters, but we can go from inches to feet. So we know that in 1 foot, it is 12 inches. And then going from feet to meters is possible. So we know that there are 3.28 feet for every 1 meter. If we go through and we multiply that across, we get 9 over 39.36. Put that in your calculator, and you get 0.229 meters. All right, next moving on to problem number 11. In this one we start with 30 centimeters and it wants us to get it to feet. This is a two-step conversion as well. So we start with 30 centimeters. We can go from centimeters to inches. So there are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. All right, and then we can go from inches to feet. We know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. If you multiply this stuff across, you get 30 over 30.48. Which gives you 0.984 feet. Question 12, we're going 20 feet per second to meters per second. This one's actually not too bad, but it looks a little scary because it has that per in there. It has those units that are in the top and in the bottom. So we start with 20 feet per second. So we put the seconds on the bottom. All right, then we need to get that into meters per second. So we actually don't have to mess with the seconds at all. And so it's kind of just going to stay there as seconds in the bottom. We do know that there are 3.28 feet in 1 meter. All right, and so if we multiply across, we end up getting 20 over 3.28. Which gives us 6.10 meters per second. Problem number 13 here, we're going from quarts to milliliters. So we'll start off with 4 quarts. It's going to take a few steps for this one. 4 quarts. We can go from quarts to pints. So we know that in 1 quart, there are 2 pints. All right, then we can go from pints to cups. So we know that in 1 pint, there are 2 cups. Then we can go from cups to milliliters. So we know in 1 cup, there are 237 milliliters. If you take that and you multiply it across, you should get 3,792 milliliters. For problem 14, we're going from feet to meters. So this is a pretty simple one-step conversion. We start with 2,640 feet. We know that there are 3.28 feet for every 1 meter. Okay, if we multiply this across, we just get 2640 divided by 3.28. Okay, which gives us 804.9 meters. And then this last problem here, we're going from pints to milliliters. So we start with the 7 pints that were given. We know that for every 1 pint there are 2 cups. And we know that for every 1 cup there's 237 milliliters. Calculating that out, you get 3,318 milliliters. Okay, so that is that. If you have any other questions about these general conversions, make sure you stop in and ask me. Other than that, I'm just sort of expecting that you know this for the quiz. It's a review, so I went through it pretty quick. But if you need anything, please come talk to me and let me know.